You see it from the corner of your eye. A dark figure. Standing in your peripheral vision. You turn to look. Nothing there. But you felt it. You know something was there. This happens to 40% of the population. And what you're seeing isn't a shadow. It's something that's been documented for over 200 years. By the end of this video, you'll understand what shadow people are, why they're different from every other entity, and most importantly, why they only appear when you're not looking directly at them. And I'm going to show you footage that will make you understand why people are terrified of their own hallways. Before I explain what makes shadow people different, I need you to understand something. In the next 60 seconds, I'm going to tell you about 3 types of shadow people. And you need to remember which one you've seen. Because the type matters. The behavior matters. And what happens next depends on which one visited you. Type 1, the watcher. Stands still. Doesn't move. Just observes. Usually appears in doorways or corners. When you look directly at it, it vanishes. This is the most common type. Over 70% of shadow people sightings are watchers. Type 2, the walker. Moves through your house. Down hallways. Across rooms. Doesn't acknowledge you. Seems to have a destination. A purpose. About 25% of sightings are walkers. And here's what's strange about them. Multiple people in different locations report seeing walkers follow the same paths. As if they're on a route. Type 3, the chaser. This is the one that makes people move houses. The chaser doesn't just observe. It approaches. It follows. It gets closer each time you see it. Only 5% of sightings are chasers. But those 5% are the ones that end up on paranormal investigation shows. Because people are desperate to make them stop. Now, you might be thinking these are just hallucinations. Your brain playing tricks. And you'd be partially right. But I'm going to show you something that will make you question that assumption. Stay with me for the next 3 minutes, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see shadows in your house. I need to tell you about Marcus. He contacted me 2 months ago. Engineer. Rational guy. Never believed in anything paranormal. Until he started seeing a watcher in his apartment. Always in the same spot. The end of his hallway. Every night around 2 a.m. He'd wake up, need to use the bathroom, and there it would be. A tall, dark silhouette. Humanoid but wrong. Too tall. Too still. The moment he'd focus on it, trying to see details, it would vanish. Marcus did what any engineer would do. He set up cameras. Motion sensors. Tried to capture evidence. But here's what's fascinating. The cameras never caught anything. The motion sensors never triggered. Yet Marcus kept seeing it. Night after night. Same location. Same time. Same entity. But then something changed. His girlfriend stayed over. She woke up in the middle of the night. Needed water. Walked down the hallway. And froze. Because she saw it too. In the exact spot Marcus had been seeing it. She described it before Marcus said anything. Like a person made of darkness. Taller than normal. Just standing there watching. Marcus had never told her about his experiences. Didn't want her to think he was crazy. Yet she saw the exact same thing. This is where the hallucination theory starts to break down. And I'm going to tell you why in just a moment. But first, I need to show you something that happened in Japan in 1998. Because what researchers discovered will explain why shadow people might be more than just tricks of the brain. Keep watching. In 1998, a team of Japanese sleep researchers were studying peripheral vision and how the brain processes movement in low light conditions. They weren't looking for shadow people. They were just studying normal visual processing. But what they discovered accidentally opened a door to understanding this phenomenon. They found that the human peripheral vision is significantly more sensitive to movement than direct vision. Evolutionarily, this makes sense. Our ancestors needed to detect predators approaching from the side. So our peripheral vision evolved to be hyper-aware of motion and shapes. But here's the key finding. The peripheral vision doesn't process details. It processes threats. It sees shapes and immediately categorizes them as dangerous or safe. In low light, with limited information, the brain does something called pattern completion. It fills in the missing details based on what it expects to see. And what does the human brain expect to see in the dark? Threats, predators, intruders. The brain completes the pattern with the most threatening shape it can imagine: a humanoid figure. Because throughout human history, the most dangerous predator has been other humans. This explains why shadow people are always humanoid, why they're always in peripheral vision, why they vanish when you look directly. Your peripheral vision creates the threat. Your direct vision, with better detail processing, realizes there's nothing there. The pattern breaks. The shadow person disappears. But this doesn't explain Marcus and his girlfriend. This doesn't explain why two people see the same shadow person in the same location at different times without any prior communication. And it definitely doesn't explain the chasers. Why would a hallucination get progressively closer over multiple sightings? Why would it seem to have intent? I'm going to give you 2 more pieces of information in the next 4 minutes. And by the end, you'll have to decide for yourself what shadow people really are. Because the evidence points in 2 completely different directions. And both are terrifying in their own way. Let me tell you about environmental factors. Because this is where things get interesting. I analyzed over 300 shadow people reports, looking for patterns, times, locations, conditions. And I found something remarkable. 85% of sightings occur between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. The same window when sleep paralysis is most common. The same window when the pineal gland produces maximum melatonin. The same window when the barrier between waking and sleeping is thinnest. But here's what's strange. Unlike sleep paralysis, shadow people are seen by people who are fully awake. Walking around. Going to the bathroom. Getting water. Not in bed. Not paralyzed. Fully conscious and mobile. So it's not sleep paralysis. It's something else. I also found that 60% of sightings occur in homes built before 1970. Now you might think this is because older homes have more shadows, more creaky floors, more atmosphere. But I controlled for that. I looked at modern homes with similar layouts, similar lighting, similar conditions. And the pre-1970 homes still had 3 times more sightings. Why? What's different about older buildings? Some researchers suggest it's electromagnetic fields, older wiring, degrading insulation. These can create EMF hotspots. And studies have shown that certain EMF frequencies can affect the temporal lobe of the brain, the area responsible for sensing presences, feeling like you're being watched, seeing things that aren't there. So maybe shadow people are hallucinations triggered by environmental factors in older buildings. But then I found something that doesn't fit this theory. I found 23 cases of shadow people being seen outdoors. In parks. On streets. In open fields. No buildings. No EMF. No electrical wiring. Just open space. And the descriptions were identical. Same humanoid figures. Same peripheral vision. Same vanishing when looked at directly. How do you explain that with the EMF theory? You can't. Which brings me to the other explanation. The one that science doesn't like but can't fully dismiss. What if shadow people aren't in our world? What if they're in a parallel space? A dimension that overlaps with ours? And what we're seeing in our peripheral vision isn't a hallucination. It's a glimpse. A momentary perception of something that's always there but normally invisible. This theory actually explains several things the hallucination theory doesn't. It explains why multiple people see the same entity in the same location. Because it's actually there, occupying that space. It explains why they seem to have intent and behavior. Watchers watching. Walkers walking. Chasers chasing. Because they're not random neural firings. They're entities with purpose. It explains why they vanish when looked at directly. Not because the hallucination breaks, but because direct attention somehow disrupts our ability to perceive them. like they exist in a frequency we can only detect peripherally. I know how this sounds. I know it ventures into science fiction. But consider this. Quantum physics has proven that observation affects reality. That particles behave differently when observed versus when unobserved. What if consciousness works the same way? What if there are things that exist in an unobserved state? And our peripheral vision, because it's less focused, less intentional, can detect them? But the moment we focus, the moment we observe directly, they shift out of our perception. I'm not saying I believe this. I'm saying it's a hypothesis that fits the data better than the hallucination theory in some cases. And that should make us uncomfortable. Because if it's true, it means we're not alone. It means there are entities sharing our space that we can barely perceive. And some of them are watching us. Here's what you need to know if you've seen shadow people. First, document it. Write down the time, the location, the type. Watcher, walker, or chaser. The more data we have, the better we can understand this phenomenon. Second, don't panic. Whether they're hallucinations or something else, shadow people rarely cause physical harm. They're observers. Even the chasers, as terrifying as they are, don't seem to actually make contact. Third, if you're seeing them frequently, check your environment. EMF meters are cheap. Test your bedroom. Your hallways. If you find high EMF readings, that might be the source. Move your bed. Change your sleep location. See if the sightings stop. Fourth, and this is important, if you're seeing a chaser, if the shadow person is getting closer over time, showing increased interest, take it seriously. I don't know if they're hallucinations or entities. But I do know that escalating behavior is a pattern that shouldn't be ignored. Consider moving. Consider changing your routine. Break the pattern. And finally, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, if a shadow person gives you a sense of dread that goes beyond normal fear, listen to that feeling. Whether it's your subconscious picking up on environmental dangers or genuine intuition about something paranormal, that feeling exists for a reason. I'm continuing this investigation. Collecting more reports. Looking for patterns. And in my next video, I'm covering the old hag. The entity that sits on your chest. The difference between her and shadow people. And why seeing both might mean something specific about your perception. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you've seen shadow people, share your experience in the comments. Be specific about the type, the behavior, the location. Your story might be the piece that helps us understand what these entities really are. And to the shadow people, if you're somehow aware, if you're watching this right now from whatever space you occupy, know that we see you too. Maybe not directly. Maybe only in glimpses. But we know you're there. And we're trying to understand what you are. Stay aware. Check your corners. And remember, if you see something in your peripheral vision that vanishes when you look, you're not crazy. You're not alone. Millions have seen what you've seen. And together, we're going to figure out what it means. I'll see you in the comments. And maybe, just maybe, in your hallway tonight.